upon a time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truths. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live, Friday, March 20th, 2020. You know what today is? You know what today is? What, love?
No.
It's my half birthday.
Happy half birthday, Jordy.
It's my half birthday.
Woo!
Not a lot to celebrate these days politically, so, if you're feeling super for my half birthday, let us know in the super chat. That would be 33 and a half. 33 and a half years old. Drinking tea. Keep myself strong. Quite the day. Quite a lot to talk about. We have an interview with Steve Grumbine of Real Progressives to talk about modern monetary theory and how this coronavirus crisis is basically just blowing up the myth of how are we going to pay for it. How are we going to pay for it? We also have an interview. We've been doing coronavirus stories, trying to show you the working class struggle. We've gotten so many emails from you guys with your stories. We've already done 3 interviews. Going to do another one today. Show you another one today. People are starting to get fired from their jobs in very, very sketchy circumstances. So I spoke with a viewer a little bit earlier, so we're going to show you that. And a lot of other things to get to. So I hope everyone is ready to rock and roll. Remember, I need every single one of you to smash that like button. Smash that like button into smithereens. We got 240 people watching right now. 118 of you have pressed that like button. We need another 100 or so. Please press the like button right under the live stream. Does not cost you anything. It's the thumbs up button. Helps us get this out to more people. Oh, actually, we got to change that graphic because now we have a new number to text. Jen switched us away from this text service that was charging us an arm and a leg. So now text COUP, C-O-U-P, to 370-370. That's 370-370. Don't worry, for those of you who have already joined our text list, you will be grandfathered in. But for people who want to join our text list, which gets you a text alert when we're live, text COUP to 370-370. Follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. We're almost at 30,000 on Twitter, which is amazing, amazing, amazing. So, a lot to talk about, and who knows how long I'm going to go today. Keep it coming in the super chat if you can. By the way, Status Coup, even though we are shut down from traveling right now, we are still actively growing. We are now just 140, count it, 140 members away from 2,000 members. Sign up today, statuscoup.com/join. That's statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. We are going to have another. We just had a members call this week. We're going to have another one now next week. 2 members calls this week. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. So I'm going to start with the coronavirus, then we'll get to Tulsi Gabbard and all those things. Generally speaking, I'm not one for, I'm pretty left, but I'm not like authoritarian left, like I'm not shut it all down, you don't have a choice left. But I think it is time for President Trump to shut the country down. I don't say that without thinking about it strongly, but I've spoken with people both in the health field as well as people in my life that generally are not ones to dramatize things. And I think if President Trump does not order a shelter-in-place order, not just, right now it's just governors doing it. California's governor ordered a shelter-in-place. Andrew Cuomo, the New York governor, basically ordered a shelter-in-place. If Trump does not order a national shelter-in-place, I think the United Corporations of America is heading to territory that's going to look a lot worse than Italy looks right now. Italy, as far as I know, has 60 million citizens, okay? We have 330 million. Italy did not shut down the country early enough, contrary to what Joe Biden said. Italy struggles right now, and by the way, if you're not following the latest, Italy right now, 624 corona deaths in the last 24 hours. Let me say that again. Italy has had 627 deaths in the last 24 hours. The number of corona cases in Italy is now over 47,000. Okay? Again, Italy, I'm not good at math, but 330 million compared to 60 million, that's at least 3 times the size. So, Italy did not shut down the country early enough. The United States is not shutting down the country early enough. So if you look at what is going on in Italy right now, and you then compare it to our country, and how many more citizens there are, I mean, unless you know something I don't know, why would the virus not spread the same in Italy, only worse? Because of how many citizens we have. By the way, we have fucking idiots spring breaking, like at the beach in South Beach. You have people basically thinking they're untouchable. In the last 48 hours, you're seeing more reports of younger people getting coronavirus. It's not, yes, older people are the most susceptible, but younger people are not immune from it. And to me, obviously, Trump is first and foremost thinking about his re-election because, let's face it, he doesn't particularly care about human life. He's made that clear with his views on the environment. But, I know I'm going to get these comments. Don't want a police state. That is stupid. Well, you could either have your libertarian views or you could have your life. Pick one. I don't really know what to tell you. I'm not for a police state either, but I think this is a highly, highly extraordinary circumstance. You have a highly contagious disease. It is not like they first thought, where if you traveled internationally and were exposed to people, and frankly, you might not want a police state, but you want to know something? Your views on a police state really are irrelevant because you don't want to stay inside. Other people who don't feel the same way as you do and put their lives before views on a police state, you could be infecting those people because you refuse to stay inside. I'm not talking to any one person, but that mentality of we don't want a police state, I understand, but this isn't like, it's not a police state in the ways we generally think of. This is to save lives. And for those saying fear-mongering, listen, I mean, you can call me a fear-monger all you want, but the bottom line is, look at what is going on in Italy right now. South Korea shut things down sooner, and they're having a better results as far as less fatalities. When you're looking at health and a virus, you have to look at the trends and you have to look at the other case studies. That's how you test things in public health. And I think it's, for those of you saying this is fear-mongering, do you know how many people, including older people, said, I think this is much, I think you're exaggerating this and that? I mean, people in our lives, our parents, literally were telling us this last week. Oh, stop. The media is making a big deal about it. Now they're telling us, wear gloves, don't go out. Be careful when you open the mail. So in a week's time from now, the same people who are saying stop fear-mongering, stop with the police state stuff, you might have a different view. Because this thing is quickly getting out of control. And Trump has not a clue. And frankly, the reason why we are even more vulnerable than Italy is, and this is why Joe Biden's statement during the debate was so ridiculous. Frankly, Bernie Sanders did not challenge him on it. When he said, well, Italy's a mess because they have a single-payer system. No, we are going to be a further mess because we don't. Because Donald Trump and the Democratic Party are relying on Quest Diagnostics and corporate America to manufacture ventilators and to manufacture masks, rather than the government having the funding to do all these things preemptively before a pandemic breaks out. So that's what I think. And if you look at the numbers, for those of you thinking this is fear-mongering, sorry, hold on. New York, it's up 2,932 new cases. Up almost 3,000 new cases. 42 deaths so far. New deaths, 8. That's in a 24-hour period. I mean, you're starting to see new cases in states that haven't had cases before. It's only going to go up. So for those of you who generally your political predisposition is, it's a conspiracy, they're doing this to scare people, they're doing this to make money, blah, 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 blah. I'm here to tell you, I've spoken with people I trust, and I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I don't think it's fear-mongering. This disease is spreading, and it's spreading far wide. We don't have the hospital beds. New York City said they're going to be out of hospital beds and medical equipment in 3 weeks. A London hospital just said, we're out of hospital beds. We don't have enough hospital beds for the amount of sick patients. So that's what I have to say about that. Not much more to say on that. We will update you as news comes in. I plan on being live this Sunday. Oh, new Status Coup member, Nerio. Woo-hoo. Nerio, 1,861. Great half birthday present from Nerio. Keep signing up. Statuscoup.com/join. Statuscoup.com/join. So, for those who don't like me calling for a national shutdown, hey, for people with Tulsi Gabbard blinders on, this is your trigger warning. This is your trigger warning. Because I'm not, unlike some other people around the internet, I'm not going to pause my intellectual consistency for Tulsi Gabbard. Sorry. So, Tulsi Gabbard, who frankly, for some reason people have been afraid to say this. I don't know why. I happen to like Tulsi. I interviewed her. I like her foreign policy views a lot, so it's not all good or all bad. But I, generally speaking, if I'm a viewer of news, I would be very, very hesitant of any journalists, any commentators who 100% all the time are pro anybody. I would be hesitant of me if I was 100% all the time pro Bernie. I criticize Bernie quite often. So Tulsi Gabbard dropped out. I don't particularly know why she was still in the race. I don't say that condescendingly. It just didn't make sense to me why she was still in the race, frankly, after New Hampshire. She has a right to stay in the race as long as she wants, obviously, but it just didn't really make sense to me. Who knows? I don't know what her purpose was for staying in the race. But She stayed in the race, and she, people that are journalists that have basically had their head so far up her ass, defend her to the high heavens. Yeah, she's going to stay until the convention, and that's great, blah, 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 blah. I just don't understand that. Not that Tulsi Gabbard not dropping out of the race and endorsing Bernie didn't have the same significance of Warren, because Warren had a much bigger voting base, and Warren got bigger numbers than Tulsi. We could argue about why is that. Obviously, Tulsi was not treated fairly by the media, in my view. She got basically the deal that Bernie got in 2016. It was a mix of a complete media blackout, where they never covered her, and then when they did cover her, it was all propaganda. That she was knocked as a Russian asset and all this nonsense. The Assad apologists, all this stuff. They tried to discredit her right out of the gate. So obviously she wasn't treated fairly, and in a fair media system, she might have done better. So, that's obvious. And like I said, me being critical of Tulsi Gabbard, I like her foreign policy views, and that's why, to me, it's just really, really dumbfounding why you would endorse Joe Biden at this point, at this current point. So I'm not going to play her speech. I'm sure you guys saw it. First off, if you're going to endorse Biden, okay, I'm going to get into why I think that's really, really goes against everything she stands for. But again, I don't know. Who knows if this was an effort on her campaign? But if you're going to endorse Biden, don't put out this nonsense that, Bernie refused your endorsement. This is her brother. I don't know her brother. I'm not criticizing him. Maybe there was a miscommunication. But, I spoke with someone today that I trust, a source of mine in Bernie world who never has steered me wrong. And I was told that's unequivocally not true. That she offered to endorse Bernie Sanders and was refused. So this idea, Bernie treated, her brother said Bernie has treated my sister like shit and this, that, and the other thing. And I saw other takes on this that were basically blaming Bernie. First of all, I think a lot of Tulsi Gabbard supporters felt it was Bernie Sanders' responsibility to tag team with her throughout this primary and stick up for her 24/7 and all this stuff. They're competitors, right? She decided to run. It wasn't on Bernie Sanders to go out and rant that Tulsi Gabbard was being excluded from the debate. I'm not saying that because I'm a Bernie bro. I'm saying that because, bottom line, in the preponderance of polling, Tulsi Gabbard was not polling very highly. I think she should have been eligible for more debates. Obviously, the DNC moved the goalposts, this and that. But if all the fights that Bernie Sanders and his campaign were fighting, they should take the time and resources to be going on national television, tweeting out in support of Tulsi Gabbard. It's a competition. I don't think, I'm not going to knock Bernie Sanders that he didn't go out and, fight the fight for Tulsi Gabbard to be on the debate stage. I just think that's ridiculous. It's a competition. And by the way, people having selective amnesia, Bernie Sanders did come out and defend Tulsi Gabbard after Hillary Clinton's despicable, she's a Russian asset nonsense. If you remember, Bernie defends Tulsi Gabbard. Outrageous to suggest she is a foreign asset. So, what did you want him to do? You want him to, get his organizers to, storm the gates of the DNC so Tulsi Gabbard could get in the debate? It's insane. So, for those of you that, this whole idea of solidarity and, they're in this together, no. That's why progressives keep losing. Progressives have to actually be cutthroat. Progressives have to be cutthroat. That's why I said Tulsi should have dropped out significantly earlier, endorsed Bernie Sanders, because it would have helped him having her across the nation, speaking out for him. She was a great attack dog against Kamala Harris and would have been a great attack dog against Joe Biden. And then you have, frankly, Tulsi's media allies who would say, hell no, Bernie didn't do anything for Tulsi. Why should she do that? with all due respect, this isn't fucking like 8th grade, okay? If Tulsi Gabbard truly stands for what she says she stands for, you're not going to endorse Bernie Sanders because he didn't pick up the phone enough to your liking or didn't make overtures to you. And hey, if she didn't want to endorse Bernie Sanders because she thinks he wasn't gracious enough to her or didn't like stick up for her enough, okay, I think that's silly. Because Bernie Sanders is the only candidate in this race that's even on the same planet as you as far as the things you claim to be for. And press that like button. We got 550 people watching. 317 of you have pressed the like button. We need another 200 or so to press the like button. But to me, and welcome new Status Coup member West. Heyo! Just got a new sign up, 1,862 members. So I totally, and you know, I saw some videos, basically the people who have been defending Tulsi this whole time who could never dare criticize Tulsi. It's illegal to say anything negative about Tulsi. When Tulsi was doing Wall Street, meeting with Wall Street hedge fund people, off the record, they wouldn't say a word about it. I said a word about it because I'm not going to like, what are we going to attack Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren and all these people for towing and playing footsie with Wall Street? But if Tulsi Gabbard goes and has off-the-record meetings with Wall Street, we shouldn't say anything because it's Tulsi Gabbard. And by the way, no, I'm not talking about the one where she actually videotaped it. She had off-the-record meetings with Wall Street. It's right here. Tulsi Gabbard, fresh off her nasty tussle with the former First Lady, Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, was given a hero's welcome at a meeting with Wall Street executives and potential donors on Wednesday evening in New York City that took place at Anthony Scaramucci's Hunt and Fish Club. She had off-the-record meetings. Let me get it. Ooh, excuse me. Off the record. Scaramucci, this was a different article where it said these were off-the-record meetings. But this event, there was no video of this. You think she's sitting there meeting with Wall Street hedge funds to give them the birds and the bees about ending the military-industrial complex? And by the way, I understand why she did it. Her campaign was running out of money. I get all this. But frankly, do you know what keeps the military-industrial complex healthy and vibrant? The same Wall Street people she was meeting with. So I'm sorry, I'm an intellectually consistent person, and I don't turn blinders on because it's Tulsi Gabbard. If Bernie Sanders was having meetings with Anthony Scaramucci and Wall Streeters, I would go nuclear. Shylux, $10 in the super chat. This makes no sense. Obama took regime change wars from 2 to 7. It's incredibly counterintuitive to endorse Biden. If Bernie endorsement didn't work out, then she should have endorsed no one. I'm gonna get to that. Italian Stallion, $20. Thank you for the fair assessment of Tulsi. It was depressing seeing other commentators defending her endorsement and blame Bernie. Also glad to hear the post from the brother isn't true. It didn't make sense what he said. Listen, if Tulsi Gabbard wanted to come out and say, listen, Bernie didn't ask for my endorsement. So for now, I'm dropping out. Bernie didn't ask for my endorsement. If she wanted to go publicly and put him on blast, that's fine. If that's really the case. But again, all I could go on, I hear other people talking about their sources. Respectfully, I'm out in the country a lot more than, some of the people online, and I have better sources. And the person I spoke with has never steered me wrong and told me that's not true, and Bernie and Tulsi have good vibes. So I trust this source, and to me, the biggest issue is not her not endorsing Bernie. Fine. You don't want to endorse Bernie for whatever the reason is. That's fine. I agree with one of the super chatters wrote, Tulsi doesn't owe Bernie anything. That's fine. I agree with that sentiment. But there is supporting the Democratic nominee because you said you would, and then there's endorsing Biden now with no concessions from Biden, without even calling for him to move at all towards your way. And frankly, again, I want to be totally upfront. I respect Tulsi Gabbard's service. This is not criticizing Tulsi Gabbard's service. I would never go fight in a war. So this has nothing to do with her service, which we all should respect. But the bottom line is, you're endorsing without any calls for anything from him the very person that helped lie you into a war that you had to go fight valiantly. And by the way, it's not only that like he had a bad vote. A lot of people voted on this and admit it was a mistake. He's been lying about it this entire campaign. He's been saying, no, when I voted for it, my vote for the Iraq war was not a vote to go to war. It was a vote to give President Bush time to send inspectors in. Well, first of all, there's either two options. Either Joe Biden is the dumbest bulb in the universe, and he's an idiot, because nobody would trust George Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, George Tenet, Paul Wolfowitz, and the whole gang if they said, no, we're not actually going to go to war, but if you give us if you vote for the authorization for military force, I'm going to send inspectors in. So either Biden was an idiot or he's lying. And all I got to do is show you this to tell you he's lying. If you haven't seen this, this is 4 months after the war in Iraq started, after ground troops were sent.
Some of my own party have said that it was a mistake to go to Iraq in the first place and believe that it's not worth the cost, whatever benefit may flow from our engagement in Iraq. But the cost of not acting against Saddam, I think, would have been much greater. And so is the cost, and so will be the cost, of not finishing this job. The President of the United States is a bold leader, and he is popular. The stakes are high, and the need for leadership is great. I wish he'd use some of his stored-up popularity to make what I admit is not a very popular case. But I and many others will support him when he makes the case. I wish the president, instead of standing in front of an aircraft carrier in front of a banner 7 years ago, several months ago, saying mission accomplished, had stood in front of a banner that said, we've only just begun, because that would have been the truth. That they are the facts. I also wish he would stand in front of the American people very shortly and say something to the effect, my fellow Americans, we have a long and hard road ahead of us in Iraq, but we must stay in Iraq. We have to finish the
We've only just begun. I mean, and by the way, in the spirit, I'm mad at Bernie Sanders. There's a 4-letter phrase in the English dictionary. Is it a phrase or a word? Oh no, a word. It's a 4-letter word in the English dictionary. You know what it is? That you could call someone on a debate stage? You're a liar. L-I-A-R. You're a liar. But because Bernie was never going to be the candidate to lead a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party, he wouldn't just call him a liar. But to Tulsi Gabbard, who again, I respect her service. You know, her video when she dropped out said, you know, I know Vice President Biden, I know his wife, they're good people, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Maybe you had dinner with him, maybe he's been nice to you, but he's lying about his vote that sent you to fight this endless war. Will Shields, I know you're referring to Jimmy Dore's take on this. It was atrocious. He blamed Bernie for the whole thing. I guess Tulsi takes no responsibility. Jimmy's way of saying he regrets voting for her. To be honest with you, Will, I did see Jimmy's video. I'm actually referring more to Michael Tracy, who I think is embarrassing, to tell you the truth. I worked with Michael. I don't agree with him on much because I think his shtick is to just be a contrarian, no matter what the case is. If the sky is blue, he'll say, well, I don't know, there's different shades. You know, I think Michael's a nice person. I think he's a smart dude, but I think he generally all day just puts out contrarian takes for the hell of it. But I think his coverage has been kind of embarrassing. I mean, his head is so far up Tulsi Gabbard's ass, he can't see straight. So I'm saying it publicly. That's fine. If I don't really care. Jimmy, I saw his video. I was a little surprised by it. I mean, I agree with Jimmy on a lot of things, but blaming Bernie for Tulsi Gabbard basically going against her own principles just doesn't pass the smell test to me. It just doesn't pass the smell test to me. There were other things he said that also didn't make sense. He said Bernie didn't have a good ground game. I don't think anybody was saying that when Bernie won Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada and was on 60 Minutes as the front runner. The ground game wasn't the issue. The issue was literally within 48 hours, the entire campaign changed dramatically. And instead of being up against 5 or 6 candidates, he was up against 1. So ground game, he had a ground game. You want to know how I know? Because I saw it. I was in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, California. Jen was in Nevada and Michigan. He had a far greater ground game than any other campaign. But ground game, if the media is rigging it against you, if Barack Obama is pulling the strings, if Elizabeth Warren won't get out of the race, Elizabeth Warren cost Bernie Sanders several states on Super Tuesday. Now, don't get me wrong. Bernie Sanders made mistake after mistake, and I've been criticizing him for basically being weak on those debate stages, refusing to go after Joe Biden, but his ground game wasn't the issue. It just wasn't. And if you actually look at the math, Elizabeth Warren is a huge reason why Joe Biden had that incredible Super Tuesday where he clobbered Biden, and since then has been cleaning up Bernie's clock. So I like Jimmy, but I just think he's wrong. I know he likes Tulsi, so that's fine, but blaming it on Bernie, and by the way, again, all I can tell you is, like, I trust my sources. Tulsi Gabbard did not offer Bernie Sanders to endorse him. That's just not true. So this notion, like, oh, Bernie, I'm not saying Jimmy or Michael are, I'm sure they sincerely believe that. All I can tell you is a source that I spoke with, I've had for a long time, and has never told me anything that didn't pan out. So I could only go with my sources. But putting all that aside, I don't understand. I get it if, come the convention, Tulsi Gabbard said, I support the Democratic nominee. In this case, that's Joe Biden. I'll do what I have to do to help get him elected. But I look forward to sitting down and meeting with him to show him why continued military intervention that he and others have been advocating for are the wrong way to go. That's very different. That endorsement is really just, I'm going to be a party person, endorse the nominee, but there's still issues with Vice President Biden that I'd like to talk to him about. But this endorsement now, forget Bernie's still in the race, but he's not officially the Democratic nominee. Frankly, to me, part of the reason Bernie Sanders is staying in here is because there's still a chance that Biden has an epic, disastrous moment while speaking that even the media can't ignore. Half the country, over 50% of the country still has to vote. That's why I think Bernie Sanders is staying in. That's just my opinion. His campaign didn't tell me that. So that's what I think. And honestly, it pains me to see people that I really, really love kind of have blinders on for certain political figures. The bottom line is, if you are vehemently against military intervention, the military-industrial complex, the new Cold War against Russia, which, by the way, Biden has been fomenting. Jen and I get the reports for all of Biden's fundraisers. It's emailed to us. And every single time he has a fundraiser, he's thumping his chest against Putin, and I'm going to get tough on Russia. All of this goes totally contrary to what Tulsi Gabbard stands for. I'm not saying she's a sellout. She said that she's going to support the Democratic nominee. I respect that. I think Trump is a unique threat, and a lot of my viewers won't like it. I'm not going to hold it against people that decide to vote for Joe Biden. I'm not going to do that because we all don't think exactly alike. It doesn't mean you're not a progressive. I think Trump is a unique threat. So, like, if you're in swing states, I cannot tell you you're wrong. And I'm not going to tell people how to vote. But I don't think Tulsi Gabbard is beyond criticism. And frankly, it's kind of embarrassing to see like the Michael Tracys of the world who have basically just done public relations for them for the last year and like drooled, like twist themselves into pretzel to defend what's not defendable. And to put out this stuff about, oh, well, Bernie didn't want her endorsement. Just think about that from a common sense point of view. Why would Bernie Sanders, whose campaign is flailing, who's been getting crushed, refuse her endorsement? Unless he's planning to drop out, which I've spoken with his campaign this week, he's not planning on dropping out imminently. Why would a candidate that has had only bad news for the last 2-3 weeks refuse an endorsement of somebody whose supporters overlap with his supporters? Why would Bernie Sanders say no? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's all I really have to say. I don't hate her. I still think she stands for principles, but I got news for Tulsi Gabbard. If she thinks endorsing Biden now, if there's like some wink and a nod or some insinuation that Biden will listen to her or break bread with her or possibly give her a position, I think she's as naive as Elizabeth Warren is. I say that respectfully, but you are completely delusional if you think Joe Biden, by the way, just to be clear, because I think a lot of times we don't realize this, and make sure you press that like button. We got almost 700 people watching. 477 of you have pressed that like button. And oh, by the way, we got 2 new members so far. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5. We got an interview coming up with Steve Grumbine of the Real Progressives. Talk about modern monetary theory during the coronavirus, as well as an interview with a viewer. We've been doing coronavirus stories. As far as I know, we're the only ones doing this kind of interviews with actual living, breathing, working people that are being screwed due to this pandemic and the lack of safety, of a safety net in this country for working people. So keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. So the last thing I'll say, because I'm sure I'm going to be blasted by, whoever is Tulsi's brigade out there. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I enjoyed interviewing her. I think she's sincere. I think she's sincere in what she believes. She is a politician, so I'm so sure her decision has some politics in it. I don't think Joe Biden was like desperately trying to get her endorsement because frankly, Joe Biden doesn't need her endorsement. I'm just being honest. But I'm sure maybe she thinks she could influence his administration. That's just not going to happen. And if she thinks it's going to happen, I give you the Clintons. So that's it. That's all I got to say. And honestly, beyond Tulsi Gabbard, I would just say to my friends in independent media, be consistent. If somebody you like and have interviewed and have a personal relationship with, maybe, if they're going and having, going to meet with people on Wall Street for like private conversations, do you have a button that just turns off if it's somebody you like? Do you think do you really think Tulsi Gabbard was going to meet with Anthony Scaramucci and other hedge funders to like make the case to them for us to stop bombing Saudi Arabia? Do you really think that? And I'm not even saying Tulsi Gabbard is a bad person for doing it. She needed money. But let's have some consistency. I cannot with a straight face hammer Kamala Harris, hammer Cory Booker, hammer Elizabeth Warren, hammer all these people for doing that. And then just turn a blind eye. Well, it's Tulsi, so there's a rationalization for why she did it. So all I got to say is, if I went to serve in the war in Iraq, I paused my life, I risked my life like Tulsi Gabbard did. I'd be personally offended that Joe Biden is lying about not only his vote for it, but his advocacy for it, his helping to make that war happen, and his pushing for that war months later after it was clearly a disaster. Damn it, Jordan, you're making it hard for me to disagree with you again. It's a tough thing. I'm sorry. That's the price of intellectual consistency. And by the way, because I'm sure Michael Tracy would then say in rebuttal, oh, you don't drool for Bernie? I make no secret that I support Bernie, but I have criticized Bernie Sanders. Frankly, I think Bernie should have come out and said, I'm for reparations for black people. I think Bernie Sanders, it's not the worst. I mean, there's plenty. He's been generally consistent. I didn't like him voting against the Brady bill. I didn't like him voting for the crime bill. I think he's been weak on the debate stage, and a lot of people have criticized me. Oh, you're going too tough. Well, I'm not like a Bernie bro that's like, I'm not here to like drool over Bernie Sanders. Status Coup and I and Jen exist to give a microphone back to working people. And the Bernie Sanders campaign is a mechanism to do that. I personally support him, but that's where it ends. If he needs to be criticized, he needs to be criticized. And if I lose subscribers or I lose viewers because I'm not a sycophant for Tulsi Gabbard, so be it. So be it. So, let me take a couple questions, comments, concerns on this before I move on to an interview that I'm excited to air. Join us for truth. Yes, he did vote for the crime bill because the Violence Against Women Act was in it. I agree. He had his reasons. Still a bad vote, but I agree. Yeah, Tulsi can't expect people to think she is genuine in her efforts when she endorses someone that helped every war and conflict since she's been in office. And by the way, I wouldn't even mind if she endorsed him like later on. If you said from the beginning, listen, I'm going to endorse the Democratic nominee, whoever that is, I'm going to endorse them. At least you're being consistent. But the nomination is not over. And when you endorse him and like, oh, he's a good guy, this and that, it's kind of an insult to your supporters, I would say, because he's a good guy that lied about his advocacy and his role in sending you to a war that should have never been fought. At least if you're going to endorse him, demand some stuff first. Demand a meeting. So, that's what I think. All right. Glad you stick with your principles, Jordan. Always. And by the way, listen, I love Jimmy. I love going on the show. He's given us opportunities to go on. And I consider him a friend. But I'm also like, I don't believe in just blindly agreeing with people. I just don't think he's right on this. And it's that simple. So, moving on. I spoke with Steve Grumbine earlier. Steve is with Real Progressives. Steve is somebody who a lot of people don't like in like the Twitter sphere because they think he's too like aggressive. But I like him a lot because I think he speaks a lot of sense. And to me, this whole coronavirus pandemic is totally blowing to pieces the myth, how you're going to pay for it. So Steve and I spoke earlier. It's a pretty long interview. I'll play most of it, but definitely, really important stuff in this interview. Definitely. If you like this kind of reporting, sign up. StatusCout.com/join. Become a member for as low as a burnt Starbucks cup of coffee. That's $5 a month. The screen's going to go black because I didn't get a chance to load it. Here we go. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Oh, mother freaker. Hold on. What will be, will be. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Steve Grumbine of Real Progressives. By the way, because I am resistant to technological change. That's why the literal green screen is behind Steve. He offered to make it prettier, but we'd have to use a different program, and I don't know how to do that. So anyway, glad you're doing well in these trying times. I thought it would be good for us to talk. We've spoken a few times because During all the debates, we've spent, I don't know, 10 Democratic debates. Maybe 20% of the time has been talking about how you're going to pay for X, Y, and Z. And then in the last 5 days, we've all of a sudden found the capacity to pump trillions of dollars into the economy basically within 48 hours. And I haven't heard how you're going to pay for any of it. Not that we should be thinking about that right now in a health pandemic, but lends some credence to modern monetary theory of this is all phantom. We have the money. It's really just we choose not to spend it.
Well, so we neither have nor don't have the money. That's the thing. Money is created every time government spends. Every time it spends, not sometimes, every time. So you see Biden up there talking about how we're going to pay for it. And he's even now, even in this moment, he and Schumer and the others are acting like, how the hell are we going to pay for this? And, I had 3 or 4 different solutions to, how to deal with pandemic crisis spending, because the economy is collapsing, and it's collapsing because there's zero production, there's zero commerce, there's zero activity. People are all at home. We're all stuck in our houses. The global economy is coming to a screeching halt. And so without an infusion of not just cash, because cash, while that seems sexy, and we've talked about this before, cash is an immediate, like right here, right now, we got to keep the prime of the pump going. Okay. But long term, not even long term, right now, government could stop short and say, no mortgage payments. Mortgages are canceled for the next 6 months period. We'll cover the 6 months. We'll directly spend on everyone's mortgage. Mortgage companies, send us your bills. No problem. Sent, done. They could literally cancel student debt immediately, wipe it out, just literally right here, right now, and take that burden off people. Because like my bill came in, it's like $800 this month. I don't have it. You know what I mean? And so you look around at regular people that are just trying to get their bills paid. They could easily say, hey, electric company, no problem, send us your bills, we'll cover those too. So this idea of sending just a basic income out, which I know is the sexy populist nonsense, but that in and of itself is not really the answer here. It never has been. Because you look at all the stores, you go to Walmart, go to shitty old Walmart, walk down the toilet paper aisle, and it's completely bare, empty, zero. You could have $1 million and you can't buy a roll of toilet paper because there aren't any. There's no production to meet the basic income, right? So without the production, the basic income's nothing. And that's how you get Weimar, all the nonsense you hear from people talking about, well, what about Zimbabwe? And what about Weimar Republic and hyperinflation? This is what they're talking about. Because again, I think I told you this last time, in Zimbabwe, they gave away the farms to the warriors and the indigenous folks who didn't have a farming background, took it away from the colonizers that did. Good for them in that sense, bad for them in the sense that they lost about 60% of the productive capacity. So you could have had $1 bazillion, brought them all in there, and it wouldn't have bought you anything because there's nothing to buy.
So basically, if I get a check, the Republicans are talking about a one-time $1,200 check. Bernie talking about $2,000 per month, more if you have kids. If I get that check, I'm still going to Duane Reade, and there's no toilet paper. I'm going to the grocery store. Half the shelves are empty. With that infusion of cash, it might help people pay their bills, but it's not going to increase the supply, is what you're saying.
That's exactly right. It's always about real resources. The government neither has nor doesn't have dollars. It creates them, like I've said. So the issue of affordability should never be spoken of again. We should just literally let's drop the facade. It should be clear as day now.
Well, I want to explain it more for people that might not have seen you yet. So like Ben Bernanke, for example, former Fed chair, went on 60 Minutes and he basically said infamously, well, no, we just moved the decimal through a machine to create money.
Exactly. And that is exactly how it works in a fiat currency environment. And that's what we've been in forever, since 72 anyway. And so I guess for folks that maybe haven't heard this, I'll do it real brief because I want to talk specifically about the COVID-19 scenario that was playing out in front of us. The United States government is on a sovereign, meaning it's its own, free floating, meaning it's not pegged to gold, it's not pegged to oil, it's not pegged to anything. Fiat, meaning by decree, meaning the government creates it at will. fiat currency. Okay, and so this currency is what our U.S. dollar is, and it's based on the ability to tax in it. Our ability to levy a tax in it is the obligation payable only in that dollar, which is what keeps it going, which is why it won't lose its value, because you can't pay your taxes in bitcoins and you can't pay your taxes in anything else. It has to be U.S. dollars, and that's the system. That's why it works the way it works. So this basic obligation is what drives all economic activity. It's what creates buyers and sellers. It's what creates markets. It's literally why you see all these companies going belly up, and they're looking for a federal infusion of money, because they don't have money without the federal government pumping it in constantly. And what happens is, people don't realize, is these federal contracts and stuff are how money creation gets pumped into the economy. That's literally how they keep the economy going. We're looking at a very different scenario here. We're asking our government to do what it should have done years ago, instead of just pumping it into the top and letting it trickle down, which is Reaganomics. They pump it in the bottom and let us decide where to spend our money. But the problem is not just the money. If we spend those direct payments to these companies, but it's for services for you and I, Medicare for all, free college, all these things, it's not like it doesn't get paid for. It still gets paid. It's just that you don't have to worry about whether the cost goes up or down. The government makes those payments, period. It's invisible to you. That's the flaw in the universal basic income, right? The universal basic income, here's $1,000. Well, what if the prices go up? You're on the hook. Doesn't matter. Now you got to go drive for Uber. Now you got to go wait tables. Now you got to do some gig economy bullshit. And that's not secure. That's not making America great even remotely.
Because
So
it's also like, the rule of supply and demand. If people get more money, there's more demand then, so prices will go up.
Well, it could, right? So, Stephanie Kelton, who is Bernie Sanders' chief economic advisor, she has written a paper. You can find it in the LA Times. It's a few years back, basically saying that if Congress breeds enough ponies, it can give every American a pony. It's kind of a play on words. But the idea here is that as long as there's enough real resources, we can do anything we want. The issue is never the issue of affordability. We create money every single time we spend, not sometimes, every single time. Same with Social Security. So this is really important, especially in this COVID-19 moment here, because what has happened is all the economic activity has come to a screeching halt. You're not able to pay your bills. A lot of people are laid off. I mean, tons and tons of people are laid off. And so $1,000 a month is not going to cover what they missed from their paycheck. However, if we had a federal job guarantee, which is something that could be implemented right here, right now, serving the local community, they could literally provide them a living wage, not just a stipend of $1,000, a living wage. And that work could be redefined to serving the local community, whatever that means. So this is one of the big deals, right? This is about restructuring society. This is about being prepared for a COVID-19 or worse. As climate change becomes more and more visible to us, and ice caps start melting and new viruses come out of the substrate and out of the permafrost and so forth, as tides rise and different algae grow and all sorts of different things happen to our atmosphere that we're not prepared for. This is what we have to prepare before they happen, not, oh shit. And so now we're in an oh shit moment. And a lot of people, and I'm going to tell you right now, I really have been struggling with this. I'm extraordinarily bitter at many people within our own movement and many people outside of our movement that have rejected this thinking, that have not understood, that have literally said, oh, it's bullshit, it's cult, it's whatever. They have literally cost lives, thousands, if not millions of lives in the grand scheme of things. And it's time that we looked inward and said, wait a minute, hold on. What part did I play in this? Because we got to get everyone. This is where the movement has to kick in. We are not going to see the kind of change that we need unless we all get behind this. Warren Mosler came out. Warren Mosler is one of the granddaddies of MMT. And he just said, unless we deficit spend to the tune of 10% of GDP, now that's a huge amount of money. Unless we get over 10%, he says, I don't see any way of getting out of this becoming a massive depression, a global depression. Forget a recession, a global depression where people are literally dying. I mean, this is where, what about the gold standard, all the other nonsense, a petrodollar. Dude, guys, for real. It's time to put your Ron Paul over here and get into the real, because this is no joke now. People are literally dying. Now you can't hide from it anymore. Now you can't be edgy and cool. Now you got to get on board and understand that if the federal government doesn't make direct payments to people to keep the primer going, at least through this period of time while we get through the initial burst of this disease, and unless we don't get to a point where we stop the bleeding from foreclosures. Oh my God. I mean, the cataclysmic events that we saw in 2007, 2008 during the last crisis, they're going to pale in comparison to what the screeching halt did now. And I can't tell you how frustrating that is to have been saying this for 5 years, 10 years really, but 5 years within this Bernie Sanders movement, being at Real Progressives, telling folks and them saying, I don't like his attitude, I don't like his tone, I don't like the way he said that, whatever. Here we are. Now it's real. And how many have to die for you to feel good about doing the right thing? And that's where I'm at, man.
I want to crystallize it for people who are programmed to be like, but what about the debt you would accumulate from all of this? Because obviously people watching are programmed to think, well, everything you're talking about is super expensive and it's going to add whatever we're at now, 21 trillion, whatever it is, debt-wise. You're talking of adding, I mean, this is how Nancy Pelosi thinks and speaks.
Yep.
Why does, because obviously the politicians now are throwing that idea out the window. Why is it that the debt thing is not real? It's not a real thing, as Kelton and you have explained. So if the government has to pump in $3 to $5 trillion right now, why does debt not matter in that picture?
I don't know if this shows up or not. It's probably backwards.
No, it shows up.
But assets and liabilities. The government spends money into the economy. Let's say it's $1. There's another one on the other side of the ledger, $1, right? All the debt is a sum total of every untaxed dollar in existence today. That's it, period. That's it. So $1 in spending, it equals $1 in tax credit. When that dollar comes back home, it closes out, it's done. So we hear about this debt, but it's really public sector deficits are private sector surpluses. It's the mirror image of that balance sheet. And we can't get past that for whatever. This is basic shit. I mean, you learn this in high school. This isn't like, I got to get the Pythagorean theorem out. This is basic double entry accounting. The government, because it creates that dollar, there's the one. When it comes back, they zero out. So if you got rid of the debt, you would literally wipe out all the money in existence. That's literally what the debt is. And so it's this play on words because they're trying to, what is the word? Train you into austerity. The rich know it. That's why they got billions of dollars. That's why they're billionaires. They understand this. They know that as long as we are willing to settle for crumbs, that they can have this stratification that allows them to lead an entirely different lifestyle and keeps us in this, controlled environment where we are, just grateful. Oh, thank you, sir, for taking 10% off my coffee. I mean, we're at a point now where we got to get rid of the shackles of that. And see, the real tough thing is that many people in our movement have been tainted by that whole Rothschild shit and all the other nonsense about, but the central banks, they don't understand. All the central banks are literally is a scorekeeper. You go to a baseball game. Where did runs come from in the baseball game? Did they come from the Rothschilds or did they come from a freaking keystroke on the board? That's where dollars come from. Where do you get your goals in a hockey game? From the freaking scoreboard? What did they dig up a goal from a mountainside and get a gold thing for a score? It's the same exact thing. All a dollar is a score. And they don't have to dig it up. That's the point of it being free floating and not pegged to gold or not pegged to oil. And we've been off of that for so long that we've got to start thinking differently or we're going to be screwed. And we are. This is the point. We are screwed right now. Right now, it's the devastation from just the disease is nothing compared to the devastation of a depression when we already were banjo tight. And boy, oh boy, it's coming.
I want to ask you, because this stood out to me during the last debate, and frankly, I think Bernie just whiffed and missed an opportunity. But when Joe Biden, it's more visual. It doesn't really matter what he says. Most Americans are just like, wow, he looks confident. That, whatever. He looks like a leader. But when he said, this is an emergency, how to pay for it? You don't pay for it. If you have to get tested for coronavirus or you need treatment, it's covered. That's it. National emergency. I think Bernie's response was fairly feeble. I think he tried to make the point I'm about to make, but not very dramatically. But to me, that shows that everything Biden and the neoliberals before have been saying about how you're going to pay for it is complete bullshit. Because, well, it seems like basically if the government prioritizes something as an emergency, they can figure out how to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
basically, because Joe Biden classifies the coronavirus as an emergency, thus let's waive off people paying for it, which it is, by the way. I agree with him. But he doesn't prioritize people rationing insulin as an emergency, right?
Yeah.
We have to figure out how to pay for that, but for the coronavirus, we don't. And I don't think Bernie made that point. And I'd like to ask you, because to me, he just gave the game away. We could pay for it. We just choose, because our donors won't allow us, to make you have to pay for it.
So what is difficult for me is that I come in ready to slug somebody. I mean, I'm my fist is ready to slam him right in the throat every time I hear somebody say these things. And when I'm watching Bernie do that, I'm like banging on the freaking wall, screaming in my house, furious. Because he whiffed. He did whiff. And I did a video not too long after when Anderson Cooper had asked him this stuff. And he went, well, it's going to be pretty expensive. I'm like, hey, who gives a shit? Expensive to who? I mean, that's like household budget bullshit. Nobody cares about that, right? You need to come out cold. And the fact is that paying for it, affording any of this stuff is not a thing. It's not a thing. There's infinite dollars. For God's sake, Greenspan of all people told Paul Ryan when Paul Ryan was trying to privatize Social Security, he's like, dude, there's nothing preventing us from creating as many dollars as we want. The question is, and this goes back to everything I said about shelves being bare, can we create an economy where the real resources are available for purchase? If they're not, then you're going to have inflationary issues. This is a demand pull type thing. And if we have an economy where we have real production, and we have the ability to achieve these things, and we should do it. But anyway, the point that you make is absolutely spot on. Biden and gang try to make this out there, well, under these conditions, we can do it. But the fact is that we do it with war all the time. You and I talked about the $750 billion that they put out there with a fart. Is done. There it goes, right? Not a single tax was raised for that. In fact, they reduced taxes, okay? And this is where we get handcuffed because, again, you see all the people, well, the Rothschilds, and what about the national debt in China? We borrowing money from China. How in the hell do we borrow U.S. dollars from China? Come on. I mean, it's just some of the things we say are so easily debunked if we took two steps back and said, why in the world would China have all of our U.S. dollars and we can't? It's just ridiculous. So Biden nails it because Biden takes we've got to be very serious about this moment here. And Bernie's like, and it really broke my heart. It devastated me because that was the time where I was waiting for Bernie to go from the free throw line, Jordan tongue out, slam dunk that thing. And he whiffed. He got rim shot all the way. Mm-hmm. So, my take on this is for everybody is that we've had to do for Bernie what Bernie can't do for himself because let's be fair. Every time Bernie wags his finger, there's some Angie's Lister out there going, oh, Bernie's a mean guy. Every time he goes, let me be honest, they're like, oh, my God, he's shouting at me. Every time he does anything, they're like, oh, Bernie this, Bernie that. Bernie can't win. And so if Bernie came out and said these things, they would call him a kook. Look how many people think I'm a kook. I'm good with it. I know exactly what I'm talking about down to the nth degree, and I'm good with it. But there's a lot of people out there that don't know this stuff. They hung out in too many Ron Paul circles, and now they're stuck in this gold bug standard thinking. And it's a shame because it's really crippling us. And Bernie Sanders had to play to people like that. That's the balancing act, right? Goes out there and says we can do anything we want. People are like, oh, he's a loony lefty, a crazy Bernie, right? Right.
I also want to turn to Andrew Yang because you and I have spoken about his proposals and it's like trending now, like, oh, Yang's been vindicated. But the way I see it, I don't think Yang's been vindicated. What his whole message was $1,000 a month on top of what, your salary or whatever you're already making, while he was simultaneously saying Armageddon's coming and everybody's going to lose their jobs.
That's right.
So if there's a jobless economy, according to Yang, which is kind of true, it is coming. I don't agree with the defeatist attitude that we can't do anything about it, but that's a different topic. So basically, if it's a jobless economy, $1,000 a month, I mean, it's better than nothing, but that's not an actual sustainable thing to pay your bills, feed your children. $1,000 a month in New York City is like enough for almond milk. So my point is, now, even getting $1,000 a month, unless your car payment is frozen, your rent is frozen, your mortgage is frozen, your student loans are frozen, $1,000 a month, I mean, might let you survive. But my point is, like, UBI to me, unless it's on top of other things, not in place of other things, is a Band-Aid to a gunshot wound.
It's worse than that. Let me. So in this particular case,
and I don't want to upset the Yang gang. I know they're very triggered, but I'm not attacking. I'm not attacking Yang, because I know people that are for universal basic income that are coming from a genuine place. But there's holes in it.
Yeah. So there's a guy that came out there, right winger, screaming and excited about the UBI coming, because he's like, now we can finally get rid of this damn FDR communist bullshit, and we can just give them their $1,000. And again, I think I've stated it so empirically that it's almost beyond refutation. If you don't have a price anchor, some sort of an anchor, whether it be an anti-gouging law or whether it be literally price setting, that $1,000 means nothing. It really doesn't. It doesn't guarantee you anything. And more importantly, at this point in time, if you don't have the production to back it, you don't have anything. What you need is, I need healthcare. I need the tests. I need the vaccines. I need medicine. I need whatever. I don't need cash. I need the medicine. I need the medicine that the cash, because if that medicine suddenly goes up from some Shrekley guy that goes ahead and drives up to $1,500 a shot, my $1,000 doesn't even get me one shot, right? So the insanity of sending people that are already desperate and broke out there to forage in the free market to find solutions is the most disgusting right-wing bullshit I've ever seen in my life. Provide people the actual services they need and let the government absorb any cost overruns, and don't worry about how much it costs, because it doesn't matter. I think that the universal basic income as a tool to get us through this thing is not really universal basic income at all. We are talking about an emergency cash infusion to keep the priming of the pump going. But at some point in time, that production has to match up with the outpour. It's not because of some sort of, you want us to work or something like that. There has to be production. And nobody can prove, and I can assure you they can't, that automation is keeping up with production. It's bullshit. It's a lie. And it's so obvious that it's a lie that we should almost be ashamed that we even parroted at this point. We're so far away from that. There's so much work that needs to be done right here, right now, that automation cannot touch. And we're seeing the effects of that kind of small-minded thinking as we speak right here, right now. I mean, we are literally living in a dystopian world right now because people have filled the gray matter in their brain with a bunch of myths and legends, and now we're stuck dealing with the fallout. Reality and bullshit mythology, they don't line up right now. Reality is, we need food, we need shelter, we need actual medicine, we need vaccines, we need all those things, and we need relief from horrible debt. And none of that's going to come. I mean, they could literally write that debt off, Jordan. Why do I want $1,000 to figure? I want them to get rid of the student debt. I want them to put a halt to mortgage payments during this crisis. I mean, we keep thinking small instead of going for the freaking home run ball when it's right there for us. I don't get that thinking at all. It doesn't make sense to me.
I want to end with something that you touched on, but I think is really important. So Bernie's plan for the climate crisis is $16 trillion, right? By far the largest investment of any politician. When the climate crisis becomes irreversible, which it already really is, But when you start having climate refugees flooding this country, when you have people from the West Coast flooding to the Midwest, this and that, there's not going to be any social distancing, right?
Nope.
You're not going to be able to quarantine if your community is flooding. Doesn't matter if you lock your door. I'm not minimizing what we're going through now, but the climate crisis, which I call the inferno, really,
Yeah.
I think climate crisis isn't really. I think wording is important.
Sure.
It's like gentrification. Nobody really knows what that is. Economic terrorism, they get it. So
Yep.
I think climate crisis, if the government doesn't act now, and by the way, Joe Biden is not going to do
Nope.
what is needed. I mean, Trump is way worse on the environment than anybody we've seen, but it's not like a Democratic president that's neoliberal is going to do what needs to be done. The Paris Climate Accords is not enough. But the immediate steps that need to happen now, once the climate crisis happens, all these things go out the window. I mean, there's not much you could do economically then to whether it's modern monetary theory or anything. I mean, you can't MMT your way out of Mother Earth roaring. So why is it so important now to do the things you're saying to stave that off?
I mean, there you go, man. We're already paying for this stuff one way or the other. You see what I'm saying? Pay me now, pay me later. Either way, you're paying. You want to pay with your life or you want to pay with freaking fiat bucks. I mean, get over it, man. This is not a matter of what you prefer, what you're like, you know. This is how it is. So use it. Use it for us so we can survive. I mean, I look upstairs at my son and I think to myself, I mean, I'm telling you right now, Jordan, it's hard for me to even talk to family right now because I've got conservative family members and I'm like, you did this. You did this. You guys who think that we got to reduce the debt, reduce the deficit, you did this. You built this son of a bitch. You better fix it. Because it's not me. It's not me that has to. I get it. I know what has to happen, but you won't listen. It's like I'm just like that Peanuts guy. Wah, 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 wah. You don't hear it. But now it's time you better hear it, or you better find a voice that's saying the same thing in a way that your ears hear it. Because it's that serious and we got to move and we got to move now. You're right. There's going to be climate refugees. There's going to be, imagine in areas where there's Hindus and Muslims and all of a sudden people are having to get away from the coasts as tsunamis are coming and all of a sudden you're blending in these things in tight quarters. You got the friggin' religious wars going on. You've got the entire bedlam of just pure malaria and all the other stuff that comes with the tsunamis, the after effects, all the health crises, you name it. This is not hard to see, folks. I mean, it's happening in Florida. It's happening all over the place. I mean, you have it in New Orleans. I mean, Jordan, you're famous for talking about Flint, Michigan. We got this right now. I mean, these are real things that we could fix right now that would save us a lot of headaches later when the health crisis really gets bad. It's got to be done now. It's got to be done yesterday. I don't even know if we have time to do it now, but we better try. You know,
And,
that's my take.
Lightning round real quick in the next, let's say 30 days, because as we're talking, New York Governor Cuomo just basically announced what seems to be like a stay in shelter in place order. He announced, I am announcing Matilda's Law to protect New Yorkers age 70 and over and those with compromised immune systems. Remain indoors, pre-screen visitors by taking temperature. Visitors should wear masks, stay 6 feet away from others. Sounds like a shelter in order, but I'll have to get more info. In the next 30 days, what are the immediate steps that need to be taken from the government?
Immediately needs to be spending money on R&D. Immediately get that vaccine created. Immediately give families. I would go as far as saying $2,000 every other week or something like that, like $4,000 a month of families. I mean, stop mortgage payments immediately. Stop student loan debts immediately. Make direct payments to those groups. If it's going to create economic activity, that's fine. But the fact of the matter is that we need to make sure people have the goods and services they need in a safe and secure way, especially if we're quarantining folks. We need to be able to make sure that we have civilian corps getting resources out to families so that they're not spreading the disease, so to speak. And this needs to happen yesterday. It needs to happen right now. We need to be able to have right now a good communication network that allows people to know where to get health care, where to get tested, what to do, and whatever scenario comes up And we don't have that right now. We don't have anything like that. And it needs to happen yesterday. Schumer, you need to get your ass in gear and freaking pass an extremely robust spending bill so families have the ability to take care of themselves. Make medical care immediately free right now. Doesn't matter. Pass Medicare for all right now as an emergency measure immediately right now. And that's the best we can do. I mean, right now we've screwed the pooch. That's it.
Where can people find your work?
You can find me on my podcast, which is www.macrocheese.com. You can find me at Real Progressives on Facebook and Twitter. And I am AIM, or Austerity is Murder, for my own Twitter handle.
And as Steve knows, you gotta set your notifications.
Yes,
YouTube ain't gonna notify you.
Real Progress in Action, by the way, is our primary YouTube channel. So, folks, please come find me at Real Progress in Action and hit that subscribe button, and we'll keep pumping out information about how to survive this crisis.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, buddy.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
Status quo.
I remember when I shot that video, I had such vibrant, full hair. It's thinning like nobody's business since then. Anyway, great conversation with Steve Grumbine. Go check him out. Real Progressives on YouTube. Real Progressives on Facebook. They do good work, and I think he's right. There is a lot of propaganda out there about how we're going to pay for it. And I think, Steve, if people throw their previous assumptions out and just listen, I think he makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate him taking the time. Thank you for the super chat, John Sprague, $10. Door censored my super chat, so I'm sending 5 times the amount to Status Coup. Woo! Tulsi says, Hillary is the rot. I'm endorsing Biden. Thanks for all you and Jen do. Why, thank you. I don't know about that censoring business, but I appreciate you supporting us. Tristan, $5. Everyone needs to give Real Progress in Action a sub. I agree. Go subscribe. Real Progress in Action, I think, is the website, and Real Progressives on YouTube and Facebook. But the original reporting does not end. So in addition to speaking with Steve, we've been doing something a little bit unique here, I think. Coronavirus stories, not just people and getting sick, but people dealing with the economic contagious aspects of this virus. People losing their jobs, people fighting for paid sick leave, disability, get unemployment insurance. Keep sending us your stories, info@statuscoup.com. If you're directly impacted, your friends, your family. We can't answer everyone, we can't interview everyone, but we're going to try to do as many of these as possible. So earlier I spoke with a viewer who had sent me that he got fired from his job. They gave him a BS reason, and I reviewed some of the conversations he had with his boss. It seems the firing had something to do with Make America Great thinking. I'll leave it at that. Check out this interview with a Status Coup viewer. Again, we want to tell your stories. And remember, folks, Status Coup ain't closing down just because of the virus. Statuscoup.com/join. We got to get to 2,000 members. Our goal is to hit 2,000 by the end of this month. So keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. Here's my conversation with Theo. Hey, it's Jordan, joined by Theo, who is one of many viewers who have been reaching out during this pandemic. There's a lot of cases of people getting laid off from their jobs. In some cases laid off, in some cases just fired. And obviously hard for me to vet every single case, but in talking to you before we got on camera, seems to me there's something fishy going on down there in Tallahassee. And your case, to me, seems a little egregious. So I don't want to describe it. Why don't you describe the timeline of what happened here? and then I'll ask you some questions.
Yeah, so, there's been rumors about coming out of the hospital that there's been people
Actually,
presenting.
can you move to the right a little bit? Because like the light behind you is kind of like blocking your face. There you go. Yeah.
So, with a lot of rumors coming out of the local hospitals, with people presenting with symptoms, tests not being given out unless they could prove contact with an individual, on Sunday I sent a message saying, hey, I'm working from home. We work only from our laptops. My family is certainly taking this seriously, even if you're not, as I, kind of put to them. My nephew has respiratory issues, and I told them, look, I need to be working from home. They then send out an email to everybody without addressing me personally, essentially copy pasting the CDC guidelines. Did not direct anything to me. Monday, I'm working from home, being productive. I get a message, where are you? You cannot elect to work from home. You have to be given permission. I kind of further explain why this is so serious to me and why I'm trying to be proactive rather than reactive. No message, no communication after that. So then I go in Tuesday, Wednesday, everything normal, getting work done. Thursday, I get called into the office, and I'm gone. So Sunday was the first communication. Monday was the second, and then after that, it was no discussion of any kind until Thursday.
And obviously, we don't need to identify the employer, but what kind of work do you do?
So we do what they call draw inspections on construction projects as the project is being built. We go and, confirm that the work's been done, that they're billing the bank for, or the lender for. Most of the work that I do is kind of front-end review of large construction document sets. And I make sure that everything is coordinating, the MEP engineers with structural, with architect and everything else. And then provide a cost analysis on top of that, make sure the project's feasible, that there's not going to be any big risks involved that haven't been noticed. So. And
how long were you with this company for?
Just about a year, and for the 5 years previous, I was a structural design engineer, so I was kind of brought in to give that expertise and kind of play their consultant on all structural questions.
And before you sent that message, had you had any, reprimands from the company, them telling you you're not doing a good job?
Well, so it's kind of the regular 6-month in review that they say they do with everybody. And it's the general language of, we want to see continued improvement. We do these every 6 months. We'll check back with you in 6 months. If there's not, if there's issues and you haven't come up to snuff in that 6-month period, we will evaluate whether or not we keep you. This is not that second 6-month period when that decision would have been made. And this is something also, that first 6-month performance evaluation, I don't like getting it, even when it's kind of half praising and half criticisms. You never like it. So I talk with other coworkers and they say, we all get it. It's basically their way of saying, we want to see a little bit more to give themselves that ammunition later on to say, we haven't made it, it's time to go. But no reprimands, like you're going to lose your job, no indication that I was going to be fired anytime soon.
And it seems to me from our conversations, no other way to put it, your employer sounds a bit like, how shall I say this, MAGA-ish. And they might have seen some things from you that told them you were of the other persuasion.
Oh, yeah. So when I was brought in...
Can you duck your head a little bit? Because your forehead's cut out. There you go.
So when I was brought in, there was nothing but praise heaped upon me. They thought, oh, these great things. We're so happy to have you in here. The first report I wrote they told me this is one of the best reports we've had written in a long time. I was being taken out of town to meet clients so they could show me off and say, hey, we got a structural engineer here. We got one more engineer on our team. We can get more jobs. And everything was smooth rolling. And then I put a Bernie sticker on, and it wasn't explicitly addressed ever, but all of a sudden politics is more of a conversation, especially Bernie and the liberals. And there was certainly some statements made of, hey, well, Bernie's going to take care of all this mess, isn't he, Theo? So all that's
From your boss.
Yes, that was specifically from my boss. But again, all that speculation is pretty clear. Also, with the MAGA type that they are, the coronavirus is all, a hoax in their mind. So it was a bit silly for them, for me to be taking this seriously and thinking about working from home. And we just, had our first death the day before I was let go.
In your area?
Yeah, in my town, yeah.
Because it seems to me, from the message that I looked at, when you said, I'm going to stay home for the reasons you outlined, your nephew, I believe, and autoimmune, and just protecting your own health, their response was kind of like chain of command, like you need permission, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like they gave a real reason why you couldn't do your job from home. It just seemed like almost like insulting that you were taking it upon yourself to be proactive for your health.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the generally conservative, authoritarian worldview. It's impossible for them to allow anybody to make a decision for themselves. It has to be granted from on high. And that was exactly what they said. They didn't really address anything about my concerns for my own health, my family's health, or the general public. It was, we cannot elect to work from homes ourselves. You must be given permission.
Mm-hmm. And when they fired you, what reason did they give?
Oh, they say, performance isn't as good as we wanted, which, I could kind of see. I would have preferred them to say, the economy looks like shit, to be frank with you, because I'm very, directly adjacent to the construction industry. Job sites are closing down. We're not getting in projects like we used to. So that would hurt, and that wouldn't be nice, but it's a little bit insult to injury for them to claim it's because of my job performance.
Mm-hmm. And when they sent out the CDC guidelines, what else did they say? They just sent them out, or did they say, as per the CDC guidelines, everybody come in unless...
Yeah, you're breaking up, but they gave a little preamble that was, we're taking this seriously. We're continuing to monitor it. The nearest reported case is in this city. There's not, a ton of cases in town. We're going to follow the CDC guidelines, which are as follows.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you were saying that they were giving off the impression that they thought it was a hoax.
I did not say that to them specifically, but that's the conversation in the office. It, not being taken seriously. I don't know if the word hoax has been said explicitly, but certainly it's motivated for political purposes in their minds. And that's the general tone up until anything that I had said.
And was there any of your other colleagues that got any brushback or tried to work from home?
To be honest, most of the others, and I don't want to, I haven't seen their ballot form and seen how they voted, but all but probably one, maybe two, have not taken it seriously at all. I've spoken with one other one who certainly does take it seriously, and I don't think he would have said anything to the boss. And so certainly in terms of mass emails out to the whole company, nobody else has brought it up in any serious way.
So what does it say to you that you're essentially you know, showcased around. I guess you offered an expertise and something they could market initially. Then I guess you put a Bernie sticker on your car. Maybe they saw it. All of a sudden, they're kind of condescending to you about politics, and then you take a little bit of control and say, I'm going to protect my health. I could do the job from home, and you're canned within a few days. What does that say to you about, I guess, the state of the country and corporate America?
Yeah, I would. In terms of the state of the country, I won't make any broad judgments, and I'm not an expert, but I would say that in this case, their own ideology or just their spite for other political persuasions informed their decision much more than any strategic business decision. There are two other, I'm months away from sitting for the PE exam. They really want to have PEs on staff so they can market that. There's other employees who are not PEs. They certainly saw me as an asset and said as much to me and clients and bragged on my behalf to these clients. But on top of the fact that they didn't like their authority challenged, just the fact that the economy is going in the shitter, they're probably going to have to make some big cuts. And for whatever reason, they were pretty explicit about the 2008 crash. They said, "Oh yeah, it was tough. We had to cut everybody except me, Dad," which the two owners of the business are a father and son combination, and one other guy who's part of their church. So it's a small office, 8 people. So they kind of let me know, at least in the past, when the economy went into the tank, everybody got fired except the owners and the one preferred employee who they have the longest personal relationship with. Make of that what you will. But yeah, for this to be the first firing so quickly after I made that statement is very telling to me, even though, like you said in the beginning, I am not going to put any formal accusations on them saying they fired me for my stance. The circumstances, though, are certainly suspicious in my mind.
Well, I will. I think it's kind of clear. I mean, timing is everything in life, and it seems like from the messages, I won't show the messages because I want to respect that you don't want to name the company or anything like that. But from the messages I read, it's very clear they were kind of incensed that you took it upon yourself and work from home. I guess, I don't know, you weren't part of the morning meeting because you weren't there, and that kind of, whatever the psychology was for them to decide to get rid of you after that. And it's one thing, because let's be fair, I mean, I take on corporate America, but there are a lot of companies that are going to have to lay people off. I mean, my parents own a small jewelry store on Long Island. They don't have any customers. They're going to have to temporarily lay off their people because there's no money coming in. So it's not like it's not understandable if employers have to lay people off. It's unfortunate. That's why we need permanent safety nets like paid sick leave and things like that. But they're not doing that. At least now, they're laying you off for other reasons. Lastly, what does someone in your position do now? I mean, it's not like in this situation, it's not like you could then turn today and get a job tomorrow.
Yeah, and not just with the coronavirus, but with the trajectory of the economy literally going off of a cliff, there's not a lot of people looking for engineers. So I can't apply for unemployment yet because I'm still going to get a paycheck for the work that I've done this week. I need to figure out, because I'll get that paycheck at the end of the month, so I'm not exactly sure when I'm allowed to apply next month or next week, but I'm going to be trying to put out as many applications as possible, and I'll be studying for the PE so that worst comes to worst, I'll get my PE in October or shortly after that when they announce it, and I can work for myself and try to do some part-time work and try to survive. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you sending me the story. Sorry for what you're dealing with. I've actually gotten, in the last 24 hours, probably like 6 or 7 people email me or message me. I just got fired, controversial circumstances, not just a company saying like, hey, sorry, no business. We gotta lay you off. More like the variety you're talking about. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more of this. But thank you. Keep in touch, and wish you well down there in Florida.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right.
That was my conversation with Status Coup viewer Theo. You could tell us your story. Email us at info@statuscoup.com. If you're getting laid off, if you're getting threatened by your job, there are companies, we just heard GameStop is like telling its employees, fuck it, we're essential services, the video game company. So if the cops come, don't let them in. We're staying open. GameStop. It's insane. So if you got a story, obviously we can't interview everybody, but if you got a compelling story, people have been sending me information. They don't want to be interviewed, but sending me information about shady stuff their company is doing. Definitely send us the information. info@statuscoup.com. info@statuscoup.com. And humbly, I will say, sign up to support this reporting. But we might be sidelined right now, but as soon as we get the all clear, we're going to be back in the field. We've been all over this country. We've been covering every primary state, but we need to keep growing to be able to cover not just the rest of the campaign, no matter how long that goes, because Bernie's still in it currently, but other stories that we want to cover in the field. So keep signing up. statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. Makes a huge difference. We're now 138 members away from hitting that 2,000 member territory. It would be wonderful to hit that by the end of this month. So before I end, and I will be live on Sunday for our marathon live stream, I wanna point out something. Where in the world is Joe Biden? Where is Joe Biden? Does anyone know where Joe Biden is? You got Donald Trump doing these daily press conferences, making insane statement after insane statement. He basically challenged a reporter to a duel today for asking the insensitive question of, what do you say to scared Americans? I mean, I don't defend the corporate media often, but like an NBC reporter asked Trump, like, what do you say to scared Americans? And Trump, like, went ballistic. It was crazy. But Joe Biden, who's the Democratic frontrunner, I mean, we don't like it, but that's just the truth. He's somewhere. I don't know where. Anat, do you know where Joe Biden is?
Maybe he's getting a brain transplant.
I don't know where he is. And a tweet was sent out today. Hold on. Apparently there's internet problems in the Biden campaign. CNN reporter says Joe Biden says he's in the process of finding a way to directly answer questions every day on camera. Quote, I want to be in daily or at least significant contact with the American people and communicate what I would be doing and what I think we should be doing. So I want to be in daily contact. I just got to find out how to do it. Joe, you ever hear of the internet? What in the world? This is who's going to beat Donald Trump? He does his campaign not understand how, like, I don't know, Skype works, Google Hangout, YouTube, name the 25 other things he could use to go live every day and speak with the American voters? This is preposterous. Bernie Sanders is doing another roundtable tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern time, I suppose on his YouTube channel, I believe, a coronavirus roundtable. This is leadership. He just did another, I think he did a something, was it last night, with musical guests? Oh no, that's going to be tonight. But he did another event 2 nights ago. Again, I'm not a doctor, but this doesn't really make sense. any other candidate who was up by 300 pledged delegates, who had all the donors behind him, who had all the establishment behind him, who had all the governors behind him, and had Trump every day at that press conference making insane, reckless, dangerous. I mean, Trump yesterday said, "Oh yeah, there's there's a possible vaccine showing some progress." His own medical people his health experts had to come out and be like, "Actually, no, the president doesn't know what he's talking about." If the Democratic nominee was all there, he's not the nominee yet, but if the leader, if the Democratic frontrunner, who Tulsi Gabbard just endorsed, by the way, was all there, wouldn't he be like all over the place, going on national television, challenging Trump? Daily live streams? Wouldn't he be all over the place?
I have a question.
You have a question? Sure.
Yes. I'm not in the political realm. I'm not plugged into it. But why aren't anyone like, Klobuchar, Buttigieg, anyone who already announced support for Biden doing like virtual rallies or whatever for him?
Right. So, Anat, my girlfriend asked, why is Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris doing virtual rallies for him since they endorsed him? Like, why is the campaign basically, temporarily shut down for a nap? And the only answer I can give you, my love, is they don't want to put Joe Biden on camera. And they're gonna...
No, why can't they do it without Biden and just like advocate for him?
Because these people had to put a gun to their head to endorse him. You think they want to go stand and do live streams for Joe Biden? I don't think so. Amy will, because Biden's already basically offered her vice president. Remember that? Amy said, "I can't wait to join the ticket."
Well, it's been a hot minute. Where is she?
Yeah, where is she? That's right. So, I got to tell you, great question, girlfriend, they said. I got to tell you, this is, if Joe Biden can't take the political layup of a lifetime, this is a layup. Bernie, if the roles were reversed and Bernie was leading by 300 delegates, he would be literally on national television every day bashing Trump. He would be literally bringing medical experts around him, showing the ineptitude of this president. But Biden isn't. And you have to, there's only one conclusion. What do they call? Patient management. I'm being honest. I'm not mocking. I'm telling you, this seems like managing not somebody's gaffes, but managing around somebody's functionality, shall I say? Managing around somebody's restrictions, shall I say? Managing around somebody's limitations. That's the word, limitations. The Democratic frontrunner to be this MIA and to be saying absurd things in the year 2020, like, yeah, we're just trying to figure out this internet thing. We're just trying to figure out a way where we could be in daily contact with you. We might send a fax. We might, we might page you to give you an update. We might send, what do they do in Game of Thrones? An owl? A pigeon? No, that's Harry Potter. It's just insane. And when Joe Biden loses to Trump, we're all going to look back at these moments and be like, it was smacking you right in the face, and the media was ignoring it. This guy is not capable of beating Donald Trump. He's not even capable of going in front of a camera every day. You don't think, with all that money, they can't figure out the tech, how to have Joe Biden be present every day? Just insane. Just insane. So, again, Bernie has his thing at 7 o'clock Eastern tonight, so definitely check that out if you want. I will be live Sunday. I will be addressing the blatant corruption. You got Dianne Feinstein, insider trading, Richard Burr, inside trading, Democrats, Republicans, getting classified briefings on coronavirus, then selling off their stocks so that their accounts, their, financial portfolio don't tank with the rest of us. Not only should they have to resign, they should be prosecuted. Remember Dianne Feinstein, who, told little children, no, we can't have a Green Deal, when they challenged her at her office? No, we eat your broccoli, kids. We can't have a Green Deal. How are we going to pay for it? Well, her husband, like there's a difference, sold off all his stocks after Dianne got a classified briefing on the coronavirus. And Richard Burr, the Republican, and 2 others, I believe, too. So we're going to have more on that on Sunday. But since there's no actual laws for the powerful, I don't think Diane's going to jail anytime soon. I doubt Richard Burr is either. Thank you for watching. I hope, I pray more of you will sign up as Status Coup members. Do you see CNN doing the kind of stories we're doing? MSNBC? Other independent media? I don't. Sign up as a Status Coup member for as low as a cup of coffee a month, $5 a month. It makes a huge difference because once we have the all clear, we're going. We're getting back on the road, but we need funding to get out there. Help us continue giving the microphone back to the people. I will see you on Sunday around noon Eastern time. That's 9 o'clock Pacific. Stay healthy. And I know people don't want a police state, but I am saying stay at home if you can. If you can, stay at home. This is a highly, highly contagious disease. It doesn't matter if you're young. It does matter if you're old, but younger people could get this too. Be safe, and I will talk. If something breaks before Sunday, I'll go live too. But for now, I will be live Sunday around noon Eastern. Remember, most people in the United Corporations of America are not lacking compassion. Most people have no earthly idea what is happening all around them. Peace out.